Hey guys, how's it going? It's Danconia here. Welcome back to the Overwatch Esports Roundup. So then, last time out we looked at the Korean region and their results for their Open Division tournament for 2020 Season 1. Now it's time to take a look at South America, which means, yes, I get to butcher some team names again. Yay! Looking forward to this. So, as ever, we have 16 people in the knockout round of this competition. Do remember that there is actually qualification stages for this, where you have standings and everything. Because in fact, in Korea, there was 353 participants in Open Division this year. Fun fact, I don't know the number for Brazil and South America, so don't quote me on that one. But let's take a look at this then. The teams that would be participating in Open Division Season 1 2024 South America were, and they say, I'm glad I'm going to get to say that a lot, Capivara Esports, Ultimo Intento Omi Ritero, I'm going to call them Ultimo, sorry, Inhi Crystal, Belial Gaming, Motos Muto Rapidas, Black Ronin, Night Haze, Underwatch, Dogma Esports, VPN, Las Salamandras, Nega Nebulous Gaming, Barcelona 2009, Oro Endano, and Cooldown Esports. I am going to butcher some names during this video and I really do apologise. I can't help it, I'm just not very good at pronouncing things, I'm sorry. Round 1 of the playoffs then, and first of all we see And They Say take on Cooldown Esports. And They Say get a 3-0 victory over Cooldown Esports here. I am going to get my words wrong with And They Say, because it sounds like it should be in the middle of a sentence. Oh my goodness me, that voice line, I have heard it so many times. But they move on to the quarterfinals and Cooldown Esports move down to the losers bracket round 1. Then we had Night Haze taking on Underwatch. This was a 3-1 victory for Underwatch with them moving on. Then we have Inhi Crystal taking on Nega Nebulous Gaming. This was a 3-0 for Inhi Crystal and they will be moving on to the quarterfinals. Then we had Belial Gaming taking on Las Salamandras. This was a 3-1 win for Las Salamandras and they would move on to the quarterfinals. Then we would have Capivara Esports taking on Oro Endano. This would be a 3-0 win for Capivara, with them moving on to the quarterfinals. Then we saw Black Ronin taking on Dogma Esports. Again, a very comprehensive 3-0 victory for Black Ronin, with them moving on to quarterfinals. Then we had Ultimo, yes, I'm just going to call them Ultimo, taking on Barcelona 2009. This was a 3-0 win for Ultimo, with them moving on to the quarterfinals. And then we had Motos Muto Rapidas taking on VPN. This was a very close victory, but a 3-2 win for Motos would move them through to the quarterfinals. So, losers bracket round 1 then, and we saw Night Haze taking on Cooldown Esports. This would be a 3-0 win for Cooldown Esports, with them moving on to the losers bracket round 2. It would be the end of Night Haze's Open Division for this year. Then we had Belial Gaming taking on Nega Nebulous Gaming. This would be a 3-0 win for Belial Gaming, with Nega Nebulous ending their Open Division tournament here. Then we had Dogma Esports taking on Oro Endano. This will be a 3-0 victory for Dogma, with them moving on, and Oro Endano would be dropping out of Open Division here. Then we had VPN taking on Barcelona 2009, and VPN would be moving on to the losers bracket round 2 with a 3-0 victory over Barcelona 2009. So, quarterfinals of the playoffs winners bracket then, and we see And They Say take on Underwatch. This is a 3-0 win for And They Say, and they move on to the semi-finals. Inhi Crystal would take on Las Salamandras. This would be a 3-1 win for Inhi Crystal, with Las Salamandras moving down to the losers bracket. Then we see Capivara Esports taking on Black Ronin. This would be a 3-0 win for Capivara, with them moving on to the semi-finals. And then Ultimo would be taking on Motos Muto Rapidas, and they would be getting a 3-0 win over the Rapidas, with Ultimo moving on to the semi-finals. So, let's take a look at the losers bracket round 2. And we had Rapidas taking on the Cooldown Esports, and this will be a 3-0 victory for Motos Muto Rapidas, and they will be moving on to the losers bracket round 3. Black Ronin would take on Belial Gaming. This was a 3-0 win for Black Ronin, with them moving on to the losers bracket round 3. Then we had Las Salamandras taking on Dogma Esports. This again, another heavy 3-0 win for Las Salamandras. They would move on to the losers bracket round 3. And then we had Underwatch taking on VPN. This would be a 3-1 victory for VPN. Underwatch will be dropping out of Open Division South America at this point. So, losers bracket round 3. and we see Motos Muto Rapidas taking on Black Ronin. This was a very, very close game, but a 3-2 victory will see Black Ronin moving through to the losers bracket round 4, and Motos Muto Rapidas will be dropping out of Open Division here. Then we have Las Salamandras taking on VPN. This was a 3-1 win for Las Salamandras. They would move on to the losers bracket round 4. But who would they be facing? We had to find out in the semi-finals of the winners bracket. So, Anase would be taking on Inhi Crystal. Again, a very comprehensive 3-0 victory for Anase means they will move on to the winners bracket final, and Inhi Crystal will be going down to the losers bracket round 4. Then we would see Capivara Esports taking on Ultimo, and this would be a 3-2 win for Capivara. Ultimo would be dropping down to losers bracket round 4. Let's take a look at that losers bracket round 4 then, and Inhi Crystal will be taking on Black Ronin. This was a very comprehensive 3-0 victory for Inhi Crystal. Black Ronin would be dropping out of Open Division here. And then we had Ultimo taking on Las Salamandras. Las Salamandras had actually had a pretty good move through the losers bracket, but that would end here with a very narrow 3-2 loss to Ultimo, and they would be moving on to the losers semi-final. In the losers semi-final, we saw Inhi Crystal taking on Ultimo. This would be the end of Ultimo's Open Division, with Inhi Crystal moving on with a 3-2 victory in a very narrow game to the losers bracket final. But who would they be facing? We had to look at the winners bracket final. We had Anase taking on Capivara Esports. This was actually the first map that Anase dropped, but it is the only map that Anase have dropped so far, so we get a 3-1 win for Anase, and Capivara Esports will be going down to the losers bracket final, where they would indeed face Inhi Crystal. So, how did that go? Well, it was pretty one-sided, with Capivara Esports getting a 3-0 victory over Inhi Crystal, and moving on to that grand final to set up a rematch against Anase. And this obviously was a best of 7, as it always is, the grand final in Open Division. But we didn't need 7 maps, because the first to 4 wins it, and Anase won this 4-0. And they say win Open Division 2020 Season 1 South America. Congratulations to them, and, you know, I hope they like Doomfist, otherwise their team name's a bit weird. But they will be moving on to Contenders Trials alongside a bunch of other teams from this Open Division tournament. So, let's take a look at that then. Joining Betrayed, Upgaming, Horus Gaming and Awakening in Contenders Trials for 2020 Season 1 in South America, we see Anase, Capivara Esports, Inhi Crystal and Ultimo Intento Omi Retiro getting that $450 prize money in those top 4 spots. And then we see Black Ronin Esports, Las Salamandras, VPN and Motos Muto Rapidas getting the other spots from 4th to 8th. They will also move on to Contenders Trials for this season. So, in Contenders Trials for South America, Season 1 of 2020, we will see Betrayed, Upgaming, Horus Gaming, Awakening, Anase, Capivara Esports, Inhi Crystal, VPN, Ultimo Nintendo Omi Retiro, Black Ronin, Las Salamandras, and Motos Muto Rapidas. This is your lineup for Contenders Trials. So, very interesting. I like it when these Open Division games are slightly closer than what we've seen in other regions, and it'll be very interesting to see how all these teams do in Contenders Trials. And I do like this expanded format for Contenders Trials actually. It gives a lot more teams the opportunity to try and fight their way through to the main Contenders tournament and make a name for themselves, despite the fact that, you know, Contenders isn't broadcasting as much of these games as we would like, and there isn't as much in terms of publicity for these games. At least there are more people in Contenders Trials now, and in Open Division, and in Contenders than there were before. So, I'm going to leave it here for this one. The next look at Open Division will be for North America. Finally, our last region to take a look at, and that's got actually some really powerful teams in it. Remember, Phase 2 and Simplicity coming down from that seeding tournament into Open Division. The only region we see a seeding tournament team coming into Open Division. So it'll be very interesting to see how they shape up against the other Open Division teams in that region. But, for now, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you'd like to give it a like, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you in the next video. See you then!